Tendons are the structures that attach muscles to bones. When the muscle contracts, it pulls on the tendon, which moves the bone. This muscle contraction places tension on the tendon. Despite being constructed to withstand large amounts of tensile loads, tendons can still be injured from too much tension. However, this isn't the only thing to consider. Compressive loads can also play a large role in tendon pathology. It's sometimes difficult to grasp the idea of how a tendon undergoes compression. To explain this, we can use a cable and pulley. When the cable is attached to the pulley here, and there is a weight attached to the cable, there is a tensile load applied to the cable. However, as the pulley turns and the cable has to go around the pulley, a compressive load occurs between the cable and the pulley. You won't want to place your fingers between them because of that compressive force. The cable and pulley is simply an analogy for what happens to a tendon as it wraps around and is compressed by a bone. In real-world situations, the sites tendons usually undergo pain and pathology are often the location that tendons wrap around bones and are compressed, just like a cable and pulley. For example, the long head of the biceps wraps around the head of the humerus and attaches to the shoulder blade. In this position, the tendon is not being compressed, but as the shoulder goes into extension, you can see the resemblance to the cable and pulley and the compression that would take place on the biceps tendon. Over the years, there have been a number of studies that have investigated the influence of compressive loads on tendons, but the issue was brought to the forefront when these studies and others were covered by Jill Cook and Craig Purdom in the paper titled, "Is Compressive Load a Factor in the Development of Tendinopathy?" and in another follow-up paper describing how compression affects the composition of tendons. The human body has many sites where the tendons are compressed by bony protuberances. For example, the Achilles tendon, as it inserts onto the heel bone, can undergo compression at the end range of heel drop. As a result, some people with an insertional tendon problem may get worse when exposed to end range loading, whereas people with a mid-portion tendon problem may be okay. The lateral gluteal muscles can undergo compression at the hip when the thigh is flexed or brought across the front of the body. This can be aggravated by crossing the legs, or if someone allows the knee to drift inward when running or performing a single leg squat, or if they allow the pelvis to drop when running. In all those examples, too much compression could play a role in tendon pain. However, this video is not intended to make people fearful of moving the wrong way. In fact, fear of movement and completely offloading a tendon could lead to deconditioning, reduced mobility, increased pain, and reinforced avoidance. A more prudent approach is to use exercises in such a way that you gradually increase the mechanical load on the tendon, so that the tendon improves its capacity to withstand loads, and the person develops a tolerance to applying a load to the tendon. This is called mechanotherapy. When it comes to rehabilitation of a tendon, we can move through a graded exposure to loads. Tendons respond well to a gradually increasing load application, or graded loading program. Initially, we use exercises that avoid compression of the tendon, but then gradually increase the load on the tendon. An example of a general progression may go something like this. Start with isometric exercises, then gradually move to slow concentric eccentric exercises, then to heavy eccentric, and ultimately to plyometric exercises. In this manner, we increase the capacity of the tendon to withstand loads while at the same time reduce the patient's fear of using the tendon. Let's take a look at a real-world example. The top portion of the hamstrings attaches to the bottom posterior part of the pelvis and also has fibers that join into the sacrotuberous ligament. When a person has pain at the top of the hamstring, we can see that stretching the hamstrings will also cause compression, where the hamstrings have to wrap around the bottom of the pelvis. The same can be said for squatting or bending over. We can still apply some tensile loading to the tendon by doing exercises, like a prone hamstring curl. Here, we can see that there is tension in the tendon, but since it doesn't wrap around the bottom of the pelvis, there is no compression. Similarly, exercises such as hip thrusts put a good load on the hamstring without the tendon wrapping around the pelvis and creating compression. The exercises that are applicable are limited only by the imagination of the chiropractor or physical therapist. If you are a healthcare provider who works with patients with tendinopathy and you want more information on tendon compression, mechanotherapy, and loading programs for tendinopathy, I would highly recommend the following podcasts: